Brutal testimony, and obviously very difficult for her to have to go through this. We've learned that the judge, in an act of sympathy toward this victim, is not going to take a lunch break, just a short break to give her a few minutes to compose herself, and then they're going to continue with the testimony so that she doesn't have to hang around until another hour. The fact that she has to face this guy, though, do you think that all the jurors are focused on how he's reacting?
Well, I mean, we're focusing on how he's reacting because that's the only thing we're able to see, which is basically looking at his responses to her testifying. I mean, the jury, I think, is doing a combination of both. I think they're listening intently to what she has to say, and inevitably, if I was a juror or anyone was a juror, they're always looking to the defendant to see, do you feel bad for anything you've done? Are you going to show any signs of emotions hearing this girl talk?
Which so we haven't really seen.
I mean, this is the purpose of the confrontation clause. There's a right to confront witnesses, and the reason why is because most communication is nonverbal. So the jurors, of course, they're looking at his reaction, they're looking at her reaction. And as we all know, judges instruct jurors, hey, look, you use the everyday processes that you go through to determine whether your kid took a cookie without permission or somebody else is lying to you, and that's how you judge the demeanor of the witness on the stand. And that's what jurors are doing right now.
You mentioned the penalty phase, looking ahead if he's convicted. Do you think this testimony will factor into that, even though jurors are supposed to judge that based on the circumstances of the murders and whether there was aggravating factors with the murders?
I think inevitably, in order to understand what the victims that died went through, you need to understand what she went through. And I think she gives, a view for the jury into what went on before these two individuals died. So inevitably, I think they're going to have to, even if they tried not to, consider that when it comes to a decision about the sentencing.
And do you think the prosecutors will intentionally try to make that connection that, listen, he's a suspected serial killer. Serial killers have patterns. There was a pattern here where he would find these women, he would bring them home, he would rape them, and she gave great detail about how she was drugged, she was bound, duct tape, the repeated rapes, the threats, things like that. Do you think that they will try to put those seeds into the jurors' minds that this is what the other women went through?
Oh, certainly. I mean, look, so often here we're sitting watching trials and we're struggling over an element of intent. In this case, we have survivors who can bring some light, some evidence into what intent existed.
Exactly. So now we are back in court, so we're going to head straight to it and listen to her continued testimony. Jane Doe, the sole survivor